Hello, everyone. I am the Economics Cat, and today we're going to be talking about price elasticity of demand, also known as PED. So, what really is the price elasticity of demand? Well, as a literal definition, it means that it is the responsiveness of quantity demanded for a change in price. To really understand this concept, I want you to associate elasticity with responsiveness. So when I say elastic, it means that quantity demanded is indeed very responsive to a change in price. Whereas when I say inelastic, it means that, well, quantity demanded isn't that responsive to a change in price. So if a good has an elastic PED, it means that, well, a very small change in price will lead to a really large response in quantity demanded, while inelastic goods will have a very small change in quantity demanded if there is a large change in price. Now, to really illustrate this clearly, I'm going to give you a demand curve. Now, the demand curve shown here is inelastic. At a glance, you can tell because, well, it looks very steep and it's also kind of similar to the capital letter I. So if you see something that looks like an I, it's most likely inelastic. Now, if you look at the diagram at the price of $5, there will be 6 units of quantity demanded. Now, let's see what happens if I raise this price. Okay, now the price has risen by 5 extra dollars, now making it $10, but the quantity demanded has only decreased by 1 unit, which means that the quantity demanded is not that responsive to a really large increase in price, making this demand curve inelastic. Now the next graph is an elastic graph, so how would you tell at a glance? Well, at a glance, it has a very gentle slope and it's not as steep as the inelastic curve. And if you think about the letter E, it's kind of flat. So if you see a somewhat flat, a gentle slope curve, it's most likely elastic. So for now, the graph is at $4 and it has a quantity demanded of 10 units. So what happens if we change the price? All right, so now the price has risen to $5 now just by 1 unit, but the quantity demanded has decreased pretty substantially down to 6 units from 10. Even though the change in price is really small, the quantity demanded has changed by a lot. Kind of. Well, more than the last one. So that means that this graph has an elastic PED. So I hope you have a better idea of how elasticity works. So how would you calculate it now? The formula for PED is a percentage change in quantity demanded over a percentage change in price. Now, it's really important to remember that it is the percentage change that you are finding, not a change, not a percentage of a percentage change. To find the percentage change in quantity demanded or price or in anything really, this is the formula that you need. You're going to take the new value and the original value and you're going to subtract the new one out of the original one, then put it over the original one, like divide it by the original one, and then multiply by 100, and that'll give you a percentage, which is the percentage change. Now, once you've found the percentage changes and calculated your PED value, how do you know whether it's inelastic or elastic? When I also first learned this concept, I kept forgetting the ranges that classified your values into its elasticities. So, to make sure that you do not suffer like I did, I have made up a new method to remember this. Basically, if your value is greater than 1, then it is elastic, and if it is less than 1 but greater than 0, it is inelastic. So, how can you really remember this? When I first learned this concept, I also kept forgetting these ranges. So, to help you remember them, I want you to visualize this on a number line. Here is a number line, and as you can see, the values between 1 and infinity is elastic, and the values between 1 and 0 is inelastic. So to remember this, well, if you go along the number line to the right, the values will keep increasing and increasing and increasing, and it'll become more responsive and more responsive and more elastic, positive, all right? So it becomes more and more responsive, more and more elastic. But If you move backwards on a number line, the values are decreasing, decreasing, and it gets more negative. So that means that it will be less responsive, unresponsive, so inelastic. Meaning, as you go along the number line to the right, because the values keep increasing, because it becomes greater than one, it will be more and more elastic, more and more responsive. So if it is greater than one, it is elastic. And as you go left along the number line, because you keep decreasing and becoming less than one, you become less responsive and so inelastic because you're not that elastic anymore. And I hope that was simple enough to understand and that you do not mess up your values in the exam. But yeah, that is the method I have for you. All right, so finally, the determinants of price elasticity of demand. So, what really determines the elasticity of PED? What makes it elastic or what makes it inelastic? So, I'm going to talk about four factors today. The first one being the number of substitutes. So, substitutes seem simple enough. Well, substitutes are the alternative goods available for consumers to buy as well. An example being Coca Cola and Sprite and Pepsi and all of your soft drinks nearly. So let's say you sell Coca Cola. If you raise your price, then next to Pepsi, your Coca Cola will seem more expensive. And so people are more likely to buy the Pepsi over your Coca Cola because it's more expensive. Well, I'll take the cheaper option. Meaning, the more substitutes you have, the more alternatives you have, the more cheaper options you will have. So if something gets more expensive, no matter, I'm gonna buy the cheaper thing. So meaning if you have more options, well, they'll turn to those options instead of buying your good. So if your price rises, the quantity demanded will drastically fall because they'll go for your competitors instead. Whereas if you have less substitutes, then you will become, well, more inelastic because people don't have a second option to go to. So they'll most likely still buy your good even if the price rises by a lot. The next one being luxury goods versus necessity goods. Well, that seems pretty straightforward because luxury goods are goods that are not very essential, but they are very nice to have, while necessity goods are essential for living and life. An example being food and medicine as necessities and jewelry as a luxury good. So, necessity goods are more likely to be inelastic because even if the price rises by a lot, you don't really have a choice. You need it to survive, so you'll most likely buy it anyways, making it inelastic. So, if the price rises by a lot, the quantity demanded is not likely to change by a lot. Whereas necessity goods are just goods that are nice to have, like you can live without it. Meaning, if the price of luxury goods rose by a lot, you probably won't buy it anymore if you can't afford it. So the quantity demanded will drastically fall. Another factor is brand loyalty. So consumers may favor a specific branded good over another. For example, Apple and Android phone users. Well, some people might like the Apple phone better, so even if they had an option of both, if both options were the same price, they would most likely just choose the Apple phone because they like the Apple phone more. Meaning, well, if you have more customers that have more brand loyalty to you, then your good is more likely to be price inelastic because even if your price rose by a lot because of their loyalty, they'll still probably buy it, meaning your quantity demanded will not change by a lot. The last one I'm going to talk about is addiction. So, if consumers are really addicted to your good is more likely to be price inelastic because even if your price rose by a lot, consumers will most likely not stop demanding it because they're addicted to it. It's nearly like a necessity to them. So they will still keep buying it even if the price increases by a lot. Some examples are tobacco, alcohol, cigarettes, your not very good to be addicted things. I definitely do not recommend getting addicted to them, but those are your examples if you need them. And we have come to the end of the video, and I hope you have a better understanding of price elasticity of demand. And if you don't, I hope you can tell me how I can improve my explanations. And thank you so much for watching until the end of the video. I am the Economics Cat, and I will see you next time.